So for our next session, this one is going to kind of pull it all together today as the speaker shares with us what 2021 is going to be all about and why he thinks it's actually going to be a strategic opportunity. So here to deliver our keynote for today is none other than my boss, Srinivas Gattameni, or Srini as we call him. Srini is CEO of ADA, where he leads a team of over 600 of us across our 9 countries as we endeavor to help our clients tackle their digital and data maturity. Now, before ADA, Srini was also Chief Portfolio Officer at Axiata Digital, where he oversaw all M&A, portfolio operations, and investments in digital advertising, digital financial services, and platforms. He also founded Payzaz, a UK-based mobile payment startup. And prior to that, he headed corporate venturing at ARM Limited in Cambridge and also led the China operations for Motorola Mobile Devices Software Group. All right, now, Srini, I'm going to hand it over to you. Take it away.
Hey, Steph, hi. Can you see and hear me okay? Just a quick cue will help. Okay, cool. Hey, guys, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to those from different time zones. I was really surprised. We have few folks from Bahamas. I wish I was there. And it will be pretty easy to actually probably operate in these lockdowns from some of those interesting and fascinating places. I think I hope you had a fantastic morning listening to all the amazing speakers. Sumant Mandal spoke a lot about some of the big opportunities that tech and media has to, and AI and machine learning has to offer. I personally love the quantum computing aspect. I think it's going to shape us so much that we can't even fathom at this point of time. Kyle spoke about how the whole super apps are going to shape how brands fundamentally engage with a whole different swaths of their customers, and they're going to drive transactions via them. And I think we're also, and I loved Florian's presentation about how digital transformation is going to shape a lot of what we're going to do as we kind of proceed amongst the different industries. I wanted to talk about kind of some of the near-term kind of immediate challenges many of you are facing. You must have been asked by your CFOs to plan for 2021. It's going to be a pretty, I think, daunting task as you think about it. A lot of uncertainty, and what should you really be doing in terms of what kind of frameworks you should be following, what kind of mental models you should be looking at, and as leaders, how should you really be progressing this as you go along? So let me just quickly, let's look at 2020 and what is it that 2020 happened and what can we learn from this? So really, 2020 was a year of crisis. I don't think anybody would debate with me. It's been a crisis of phenomenal mega proportion. It's been a crisis of consumer sentiment, of economy, of social unrest in many markets, and of course, the pandemic around us. But I do think there was a bit of silver lining for a number of our marketing heads and CMOs. It was also a year of marketing's moment. A number of you quickly scrambled, put together solutions to engage with the digital consumers. And I have some examples of that I want to share from different industries and some fantastic work. And if you look at a whole swath of different brands and companies, they've really taken advantage of really what happened in 2020 and quickly outshone against competition. And I don't think anyone will argue with me. This was a year of digital reckoning. And as we moved into digital platforms in droves, we also saw essentially a whole bunch of consumers and new consumers come onto digital platforms. And these digital platforms have enabled them to access services and products and ensured that business and economy continue during lockdown. I mean, my own daughter now, pretty much her whole schooling is via e-learning platforms. My wife does her yoga over a Zoom call. I would have never imagined that. And of course, I mean, a number of you will have examples where you're probably meeting and doing your birthday parties over Zoom calls or Teams or any video conferencing system of your choice. I mean, this conference alone, we have been doing this physically in different markets, but this year, of course, we've had to move into a kind of a virtual landscape. So what's 2021 to offer for us? Many pundits have called out V-shaped recoveries, U-shaped recoveries, bath-shaped recoveries. I didn't even know there was one until Sumant called it out. But many traditionalists also said that we are going to move back into the yesteryears. But really looking at where we are at this point of time, 2021 might not be, to be honest, that different. And if it's not going to be any different, how should we be doing differently? What kind of mental model should we be approaching the year with? And how do we thrive in this setting? I think there's something fundamentally different about 2021, though, which was not the case for 2020. And that's to do with the fact that going into 2020, you probably did not have a good understanding of what the year is going to look like. I think some of us had predicted that there would be a bit of a recession in 2020, but nobody had predicted the crisis that was kind of bestowed upon us. But going into 2021, you know that there will be a huge amount of uncertainty. You need to fundamentally figure out a plan to keep planning as opposed to the plan itself. And the reason I say this is quite simple. When you entered 2020, you probably had a plan, an annual budget, so to speak. You probably assumed with, I would say, 95% probability of executing that with only small changes and pivots. But going into 2021, I can tell you that whatever plans that you make, you probably will change it in Jan, and then you'll replan and you'll change it again in Feb, and you'll keep changing as you go along. And how do you fundamentally operate in this type of an environment? So I wanted to kind of look back and take some examples of what happened in 2020, of how a whole bunch of different industries quickly scrambled and put together very interesting solutions to continue to engage with their customers. This is, I mean, I'm a big auto guy. I love cars, and this is an example where Chevrolet and basically had an issue with production of the 2020 Corvette Stingray, but they wanted their fans to continue to basically try out the models, which weren't available in a lot of dealerships. So they used virtual reality. They basically built that model and actually made a whole racing game out of it. The second example I have is maybe closer to home, iProperty. iProperty basically took a lot of new housing inventory and made it available for people to take virtual tours and book new properties without actually physically having to go across. And then the third one, another favorite of mine, has been NBA and how NBA enabled its fans to continue to cheer for their players in live games. They used basically apps for interaction. So you could basically download the app, you can tap to cheer. And also you could take a virtual seat on the stands. And you can see in this photo here, where the fans' faces are visible. And I'm sure that was providing the much needed motivation for players to do their best. Now, the question is, will we require a lot of this in 2021, or will we be going back to normal? And no prizes for calling it out, but I think a lot of the pandemic changes are here to stay. I've pulled out various different pundits in terms of, as they're calling out, what is the future of consumer interaction? And pretty much by and large, from Axios to BCG to AppsFlyer to Bain, they all talk about consumers making dramatic shifts to online. I mean, a lot of consumers have tasted the blood of digital and are not going back for sure, so to speak. And in this environment, so one thing is certain, whether irrespective of how the economy is going to be in 2021, I don't think anyone is also certain who is going to be the leader of the free world. But one thing is certain, and pretty much no award for claiming it, that a number of us will continue on our digital and data maturity, and digital and data maturity in your organization will continue to remain in spotlight. However, I don't think you will be given awards for putting together and scrambling together solutions and one-off interesting engagements with your consumers. I do think in 2021, majority of you, whether you're CMOs, CIOs, CEOs, will be required to basically lay the foundations for a long-term and a sustainable digital and data maturity foundational blocks in your organizations. You know the new world, you know the world has accelerated in a lot of digital and consumer interaction, and you will be required to essentially build a very long-term foundation over the next 12 months. Now, there are many different frameworks to think about what does such a foundation look like. I wanted to share one perspective that we in ADA follow. And that is, if you look at any brand that is trying to reach a digital user, by and large, they need to put together a number of different building blocks as they are going through that journey. One is brands have to put together customer data analytics. They have to drive a lot of consumer insights and measurement and attribution. They have to develop a brand identity and creative development within the digital realm and the digital world. They'll have to do a lot of digital media execution for sure. And many of you have already been doing this on performance media on Facebook, Google, programmatic, etc. You will have to put together the backend infrastructure for your marketing technology and also data integration of your consumers' information. As you launch your apps, as you propagate more of those that you've already launched, as you build your brand.coms into fully fledged consumer engagement channels, a lot of data from customers will come through. You will need the marketing technology investment in order to essentially manage this. You will be required to, of course, enhance your whole customer interface design, UI, UX, and ensure it provides a seamless engagement platform for your consumers to interact with. And lastly, you will have to look at how do you leverage the various distribution channels, and I'm talking about digital distribution channels in markets, to fundamentally shift a lot of your revenue via traditional channels into the digital distribution. Examples of these are leveraging marketplaces like Lazada and Shopee, or super apps like Grab, Boost, and or affiliate sites. And immediately, I think maybe the first couple of quarters in 2021, you will be needing a number of different solutions, and you probably might be doubling down on some of these aspects. A lot of your old media mix models will be less relevant, so you will have to bring in third-party data insights and also real-time insights of how consumers are shaping up in terms of their personas, their interests, and their intentions. Your budgets will be limited, so you will have to create more earned media opportunities. Again, within the whole awareness and media space, your budgets might be shrunk by your chief financial service officers, and you will have to defend the budgets by focusing more on bottom of the funnel marketing as opposed to top of the funnel. A lot of focus around marketing automation and activating existing clients, measurement and optimization, of course, and lastly, teaming up with sales and distribution. This is a lot of work, and no doubt about it. A lot of this platforms that you have to build is going to be pretty hard. And you'll have to build this amongst the uncertainty of revenue, amongst the uncertainty of lockdowns, and amongst the uncertainty of maybe potentially third waves of COVID around us. And to be honest, I was thinking, what might 2021 feel like as you're building some of these digital and data pathways in your organization? And I found this picture that probably speaks volumes in terms of what you will go through over the next 12 months. It will be pretty uncomfortable. You will have to push through a lot of existing clutter. You will have to push through a lot of existing chaos in your organizations, the traditionalists fighting with the digital natives, and making at the same time lots of important decisions for the long term while also managing your short run. However, I think the silver lining in all of this is that you will have permission to shake things up. And I think that's what crisis gives you. A continued crisis will give you a permission to fundamentally change without providing a lot of reason. I do think you will be able to recalibrate a lot of your CMO and your CIO relationships. Your teams will get comfortable with uncomfortable if they're not already so. And to a large extent, I think this is really to me, this is what I call, to me, the 2021 strategic opportunity. And it is that how do you look at the crisis and the fundamental shifts that have happened in consumer engagement with digital as the opportunity to basically suddenly become a digital native if you were not one. And it's easiest always to change stuff during moments of crisis. And hence, I strongly suggest that do take advantage of this as you think about next 12 months. Now, if I double click on some of the execution elements, I would say there are 4 main elements that are required as part of next 12 months planning that you need to probably think about. The first one, and often this is not spoken a lot in different webinars of our type, is digital talent. All of you who probably attended this conference know this in and out, especially in our region. There is a lot of competition for top digital talent. You will find it pretty hard to retain your existing top talent too. So the only option, to be honest, is we have to develop a lot of digital talent, not just look at it from acquisition and or hiring point of view. And I'll give you some ideas over the next couple of slides on how you might do it. But really, what I would say is there's going to be a lot of competition. Retention is going to be an issue. So your only option is actually to develop your existing staff to think in the new normal. The second one, and many of you will not like me for saying this, but you have to really think about your agency partner. What sort of capabilities do they have? And are they the right partners to drive your digital implementation? What capabilities are they building that are fundamentally worthy of your partnership? A third aspect of the whole planning for next year is about constant measurement and ROI. You will have to show value and defend your budget. Budgets will be tight. And at the same time, CFOs will always try to protect certain budgets and not allocate. And the only way you're going to be able to unlock this is by measuring really important metrics, which will fundamentally shape revenue. So that's cost per lead, return on ad spend, and maybe cost per acquisition and or revenue generated from every customer, and hence lifetime value. I do not believe that you will be allowed to just measure on pure marketing outcomes or vanity metrics like cost per click, CPMs, etc. And how you measure and how you drive ROI will require a lot of investment in marketing technology and building those lifetime value models that are necessary for your respective industries. And the last one is, of course, as I was saying earlier, an agility in budgeting process. If not already, I do think a lot of your CFOs will be asking you to engage in zero-based budgeting for next year, which basically means that your budget is zero and every dollar needs a business case associated with it if you need to put it in. Do plan for frequent reviews and pivots. And I would almost say these have to be daily, if not real time, and definitely not quarterly budget, definitely not quarterly reviews. And you've got to be able to pivot, and you've got to be able to keep moving with however the economy will keep shaping up in fits and starts. And finally, I would also suggest to stash away some central budgets. It's always useful because sometimes you might find those insights and you might find some experimental models that have suddenly a disproportionate opportunity growth compared to investment. And at that time, you might want to quickly tap onto some central budgets that you can quickly deploy. While I think the item 3 and the item 4 are quite discussed in a number of different forums, let me just maybe double click on maybe the first 2 aspects of it and leave you with some thoughts of at least how in ADA we think about providing the necessary capabilities over the next 12 to 18 months as we grapple through the environment around us. The first one around digital talent, I do think you have to reimagine your talent. What does a future marketer look like in this new age? But let me start with what does the current talent look like? And by and large, your digital natives in the marketing space would have some and pretty strong knowledge about Facebook and Google on programmatic ad tech tools, some degree of focus around attribution, analytics, and reporting. But this is not going to be enough. I think over the next 12 months, over the next 12 months, really, you will have to build a lot of new capability. You've got to learn a lot of new stuff in digital psychology, in analytics, the full customer funnel, automation and APIs, lead generation. And I would also posit they probably will have to learn some degree of front-end coding. The tools that are available to basically scrape insights today are not sufficiently broad and well thought through. So you will have to do some bit of coding and probably front-end coding and light coding in order to unearth some of those insights that are not immediately just available from the tools that you'll be able to pick up off the shelf. This requires training. This requires a lot of new age kind of thinking and basically a growth mindset that a lot of us have to plan in order to inculcate this. The second one is, as I was saying, do reimagine your agency partnership, address that elephant in the room. Just look at, do they have audience activation technology, for example, to kind of produce real-time insights, or are your insights being laboriously and manually processed, which basically fundamentally just delays your ability to quickly pivot and react. Are there enough automation tools to produce the velocity of content that is required for earned media? Are there audience platforms for automation of media planning and really deploying and using AI as much as possible for backing those campaigns, which will give you the maximum ROI? And fundamentally, I think the most important point in this is probably the fourth one, which is there an integrated approach to e-commerce enablement and digital distribution alongside media and content? This is quite important because I do think every dollar probably will need to be accounted for in terms of how is it basically adding to the top line and enabling to a certain extent the revenue from digital channels, and being able to measure and attribute that is going to be essential over the next 12 months. So as you reimagine these two, I just wanted to finish with one final slide to talk about, so how should, maybe just from a big picture point of view, how should you measure your success in 2021? And let me compare and contrast this to maybe some ways you might have been measuring maybe the marketing success in the last few years. In the past, you might have been looking at your rate of digitization by a shift of marketing budget from traditional to digital. In 2021, you will need to look at how much of your revenue has shifted from traditional channels to digital distribution channels. The second one is, of course, do you have a classical agency partner engagement, or do you have a new age digital solution partner? The third one is, are you investing in media, or how much investment have you made in marketing technology? And are you balancing that quite well? And last, and my favorite one, is do you have an annual marketing plan, or do you have fundamentally a plan to plan? Because that's what I think you will need for this uncertainty. So with that, let me just close with one final thought. Do not go gentle into 2021. Do drive data and digital maturity. I'm pretty sure the 2021 future you will thank the current you. Thank you very much. Steph, over to you.
Thanks, Srini. I think that was really useful. It can be daunting to think about how we're going to try and attempt to navigate 2021, given the unprecedented change that we're all going through right now. So maybe I'm biased, but I really like the 4 pillars you spoke about. At least, it gives us a little bit of focus and some direction, right? Some key areas to, focus our energies on if we're going to make the most of 2021. So thanks for that. And we actually have a lot of questions, so I want to take a few. Let's start with this one. So there's been a lot of discussion, right, this morning on how digital transformation, new technologies, machine learning, robotics, and the need to tap onto partnerships. But within all of that, what do you think is the most vital aspect that a business should focus on when they're working to propel the company forward? For example, should they be looking at talent, their supply chain? What is it?
Yeah, I think increasingly, companies have to do both at the same time. They'll have to bring in a lot of technology that is available. I think the good news is that the cost of technology has come drastically down. Gone are the days when you need to spend $1 million to put together a whole end-to-end stack leveraging data and insights. I think it's now done in tens of thousands of dollars. So with the whole cloud aspects that Sumant Mandal spoke about, really, and with all the cost of computing, which has come down drastically, the cost of deploying tech and leveraging that is actually pretty low, and it'll continue to actually trend along that direction. The second thing is, of course, talent. What I do think a lot of companies have made maybe historical mistakes around is they've just focused around the tech. They've brought in the tech and it is often just sitting on the shelves, not well integrated into the various internal systems. It is not used for day-to-day planning. It is not used for campaign optimization. And that's largely because they haven't really brought in the talent and or developed the talent to use it in the most effective way. So I would think both talent and technology license is quite essential over the next maybe 12 to 18 months as companies kind of build the foundational blocks of digital and data maturity.
Great, Srini. I mean, I really liked how you brought up the fact that the talent and the technology go hand in hand. And actually, you also talked about, you painted that vision of the marketer of the future just now. And I was wondering, so now that we see that the marketer of the future is so much more, do you think marketing is more of a science or art? And is it realistic to expect one person to be able to actually, have all those skills?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to be honest, that's something that internally in ADA, we are always grappling with too. So we do apply the concept of a T-shaped marketeer, especially those who are maybe broader level in managing different campaigns. They do need to have some basic understanding of digital psychology. They need to have a fairly strong understanding of the customer funnel and the whole analytics around it. They have to understand to a certain degree all the platforms that are available at hand. They might not be master of everything, but they do have to be, I think, a jack of all. And a jack of all basically gives you an ability to go and tap into the masters whenever that is necessary. But I think the point I wanted to make there is that if you just have folks that are just focused around ad tech and or just media performance on Facebook or Google, that is not sufficient. You need to have people who have a good understanding of customer data and insights, all in one person, by the way, a decent understanding of how media and performance can be activated by the different digital channels. You need to have a decent understanding of the marketing technology tools that are available, and of course, customer journey. Because without an integrated approach to all three of them, you will not be able to drive, I think, a very good ROI on it. So, I mean, I do think, I mean, if you've chosen marketing as your domain that you want to build your expertise around, there is no other option but having to learn this. I mean, it is, I would say, of all the industries, the industry that's gone through the maximum amount of disruption one can ever think about. And with all this disruption, there is a need to just learn more and more and more and really cram more and more into your head.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I'm a marketer myself, so I fully identify with that. And I think more and more now it's about the right and the left brain coming together. You can't be one or the other anymore. Okay, one last question. So a lot of companies have started to dive into the business of targeting and digitization. What sets ADA apart from your competitors?
Wow, I can talk about it for a day.
We have 2 minutes.
But I would say, I think, I mean, in ADA, our focus is very much around, okay, what are the big industry problems and what are client fundamental problems that they are trying to grapple with in terms of the new economy, in terms of their products, in terms of their service, in terms of their engagement. So it always starts with the customer problem, but at the same time, we also focus a lot around how can data and technology fundamentally solve this at a basically a lower cost to serve the same customers, providing that additional volume of growth that is possible. So how do you deploy various pieces of technology across that full funnel that I previously spoke about? So if I take an example, within the customer data and analytics, today we process about 375 million consumer profiles on a monthly basis across the region. What can we learn out of this? What interest segments fundamentally drive certain categories? What intent segments can be built from machine learning? Now, applying that, of course, and driving creative insight from it. How do we have 10 years worth of YouTube and video information in terms of what type of earned media can be created, leveraging video and video analytics? And how do we apply AI machine learning models to basically take the guesswork out of creating that next viral video that every client wants to create? How do you leverage all of this data and insight around media performance and driving better ROI for every dollar of investment on digital channels like Facebook, Google, programmatic, etc. And then now looking that beyond, what type of marketing technology like customer data platforms, data management platforms, we have to deploy inside our clients to make this a seamless engagement for an external customer acquisition, as well as managing and retaining and making your current customers more loyal. So, I mean, we really think about how do you build this whole end-to-end spectrum and not silos. And I think that's the key, I would say, differentiation vis-a-vis maybe some of our kind of other competition and our partners.
Oh, thanks. That's a fantastic answer, Srini. And it's funny, we didn't rehearse this, but you have given me a very nice segue because later this afternoon, we'll actually be previewing 2 of our new tools from 88 that talk about, one about the video analytics piece that you spoke about, and the other on the consumer insights. So for the person who asked this question, stick around for the afternoon and we'll actually show you some of that stuff. Okay, thanks, Srini. Time's up for you. This was fantastic. And to our audience, we have one more poll that we wanted to run. So I'm going to launch it right now. And are you able to see this poll? All right, let's see what you all have done. So, I mean, it's a pretty even split with accelerator automation right at the top. And yeah, here's a space that's really developing. We're seeing robots in everything from toll booth collection to dining hall staff. And a close second is increased capacity and capability via external partnerships. And I'm really happy to see that because, you know, just because there's so much tech and automation, it doesn't eradicate the need for actual human and business collaboration. That's fantastic. And of course, a close third is upping your e-commerce game. And we know that, you know, COVID-19 has reshaped the landscape of online shopping forever.